What's going on, woodworkers? So we're back today. Got another video. I apologize. I've been kind of slow on the video releases, going about every 2 weeks instead of every week. As you can imagine, it's pretty difficult with a 4-month-old and a full-time job to pump out quality content, and I do want to put out quality content. So that means a bit of a slower pace. That's what we'll do. But today we're back on the dresser build. Like I said, we're really kind of in the final stretch here. Really, we're not in the final stretch. We're in the final stretch with like the milling down of the walnut wood, which is definitely the most time-consuming and challenging process, I think. So the last thing we have to do with the walnut is to put together the top panel of the dresser. And I've actually already done that. So not something I did on the channel, and I don't really know why I didn't do that. Maybe it's because I wasn't totally sure it was going to work, and boy, is that some foreshadowing. But it didn't, right? So you can see I've got some unmilled rough sawn lumber right here. I just picked that up. And then you can see I've got a walnut panel right here, which honestly, for my first panel glue up, probably not terrible, but I did something crucially wrong all the way at the end. And it was really all the way at the end that I made the mistake. So hours of milling down 60-inch boards just to mess it up at the end. So that's why I'm making this video today. We're going to remake the panel here, and I'm going to show you what I did wrong so that you don't do it as well. But essentially, as you can see, the panel's here, and it should lay flat, right? This should be a flat panel. So you can see and hear that it's got some rock. And so what it is it bows inward. So the two outside edges here are higher than the center point, and you can really tell. Let's rotate that around when I put a level on it, and I'll zoom in for you guys, but there's like clearly a big gap right there. Honestly, I'd say it's probably a 1/4 of an inch gap. And you know, like I said, I'm pretty sure I know what I did wrong, so we'll see, and I'll mention that in my video here. But it's really a simple fix. And I did use biscuits to align it, so that was another first for me, using biscuits. So I'm excited I'll be able to show you guys on that as well. But kind of without further ado, let's go ahead, and I'm just going to montage, time-lapse real fast through the milling process of getting these boards down to 52 inches by 5 1/8 across. Real quick, I will mention I'm not going to join the faces of these boards, and that's kind of a conscious decision that I'm making because they're so long, and it didn't go so great when I did it the first time. There were still some areas of the board that remained rough sawn because it just took too much off with my small joiner, and that's the limitations of having a bench top joiner. So I'm actually just going to plane them. I got as flat of boards as I could, and I'm hoping that the biscuits will help to align them. So that's a risk that I'm taking, and if you definitely have a floor model joiner that's long enough, I would 100% face joint these, but I will edge joint. So let's get started. All right, you totally may not be able to see my face or anything here, but that's okay. So I didn't get any video of me, and I apologize if it's super echoey on the mic. I closed the garage doors for the sake of the neighbors. It's pretty late at night here on a Saturday. But I didn't get any video of me jointing the edge of each board. But what I did is I laid it on the ground. And I found where the bow is, right? Because you always want the arch, the crown up. And I jointed that side, edge jointed, and then I wrote on that edge F for put that against the fence, because that's my straight side. So that did not work as well as I wanted it to get these boards straight. And I kind of anticipated that because it's a benchtop joiner and these are such long boards. So there's a workaround for that, but I just want to show you guys why it's so important to dry fit your piece, right? So this is a dry fit. They've all been jointed. The edges aren't super clean, but that's okay. And you'll see that 3 of the boards are pretty good. There's some seams that are opened up. And if I really press them together, maybe, but I kind of doubt it. This one's really bad. There's a huge bow in this one. And maybe I didn't joint that edge enough, but we'll see. So here's the workaround, and I'm going to bring you over to it, and it's going to be really, really hard to see, so I apologize. Okay, so here's the piece, right, all laid out in the orientation. That's very important, the orientation that I want it. And I've come down here to the edge. Oh boy, yeah, it's pretty tough to see because I wrote it in pencil. So we have my first board, my second, my third, and my fourth. So I wrote A, you can see it there. B, you can see it there. C, and D. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip against the table saw each edge to get it down to final length, 5 1/8. They're just over 5 3/8 right now, so I can take a little bit off of each edge. So what you do, right, because I highly doubt that anyone's table saw is exactly dialed into 90. So to just play it safe, even if you are confident that yours are, you go up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So what that means is when I rip it against the fence, I'm going to put my my edge that I marked fence against the fence, and I'm going to make sure that I can see this U, right? Because I'm ripping it up. Then I'm going to do the same thing with this piece, but make sure that the fence annotation is against the fence, and then I see down, which if I flip this board over, I've written a D. It's really hard to see. My hands are super dirty because I've been working with this walnut all afternoon. Sorry about that. So what that does is that offsets the angle, right? So if this angle is this way, then that one will be that way as well, and they'll match together perfectly, and it should clean up all of these seams. So that's what we're going to do now. Okay, so once again, may not be able to see me, but I'd say that was a pretty huge success. So the panels aren't aligned right now, and that's okay, right? Because I planed them, I didn't face join them, so they're going to have some natural bow left in them. But that's all right. That's what the biscuits are for when we get to the biscuit joining step. So really all these first 3 pieces here lined up beautifully. Like the seams are pretty much gone. This last piece gave me a little bit of trouble. I think it's because I didn't take enough of the original bow out. So it's still a little bit wider here than I'd like it to be. And I don't think I'll be able to get that out. I've tried, and I've already cut it down almost a 1/16 or an 1/8 of an inch more than it really needed to be. So I think I'll leave it now. If I, yeah, I think they're there to stay. I don't know what it is. But I'm pretty happy with that. So now on to biscuit joining. All right, woodworkers. So again, I don't think you can see my face, and that's okay. So we've got our panel put back together here, and I think I showed you that those seams closed up real nicely here, but we still had some misalignment issues where some panels are higher or lower than the others, and that's because I planed without joining. And you may even get those issues if you do face joint. So a trick we use is called a biscuit. So we'll use biscuits throughout this piece to help align them. So what a biscuit does is a biscuit sits right between the two seams, about halfway through the thickness of the piece, and half of it goes into one piece of wood while the other half goes into the other, and they fit together like a puzzle piece, and that's what keeps the boards aligned, even if they're kind of naturally bowed or twisted or whatever you might have. So my technique is I put one about every 6 inches. So we're going to go ahead and just mark that out and start drawing our lines. And what you want to do is get a straight edge and go from piece to piece, right? So that when you put your biscuit, when you cut your biscuit slot, which I'll show as well, flip this around so you can actually see it. So from one piece to the other so that they're aligned, and the biscuit slot will line up nicely and the biscuit will go in together and not prevent that seam from closing up. So every 6 inches. And a trick you might want to do, like me, I've got this should be about 60 inches. So 56 inches, 56, and I only need a 52-inch top. So I'm gonna have to cut about 4 inches off. And I think I'm gonna cut 4 inches off from this side over here where the seam wasn't as good. And so that should help close some things up. But a trick to do that is you kind of want to mark where that 4-inch place is going to be here so that you don't put a biscuit right along the seam of where you're going to cut, or not seam, the edge of where you're going to cut, because then you would have an exposed biscuit. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so this is a biscuit joiner, and this is kind of how I set up my piece to do it, right? I just clamp it to the table, leave a little bit of an overhang, and then I've got my lines that I drew up. And if you notice, while I was marking my lines, I was marking them close to the center of the board, and that's because of this lip on my biscuit joiner to line up the center point. It works best if they're kind of out towards the middle there. But a biscuit joiner is super simple. You set the height that you'd like it to be so that it goes through the middle of your piece. And then they have different size biscuits, right? You have your 10, 20, 0, 10 to 20, I believe. And I'm using 20 size biscuits. So you just rotate the little dial, line up your piece, and then it's like a plunge cut. They're super simple machines. You can pick them up. I think they're sort of expensive at Home Depot for like a brand new biscuit joiner from DeWalt. This one isn't even mine, actually. It's a buddy of mine's. I was kind of trying it out to see if it was something that I wanted to invest in. And what I think I've realized is I'm going to pick up a nice used one for like 40 to 50 bucks. I see them pretty often on Facebook Marketplace here in Kansas. So that's what I would suggest doing. But it's real simple. So we're just going to go ahead and start punching in our holes. All right, guys, so we're kind of to the finishing piece of this part of the project, right? Sanding down the panel of wood. It's super late at night, 10 o'clock here, so we're going to see how much we can get done tonight. I'm also probably in the worst lit part of my garage, so I apologize. I just think this is the flattest and most accessible part of my workbench and kind of where I want to start the sanding process. But we took it up out of the glue up. Honestly, came out pretty good. We have one kind of seam that you can still see right in here over this way. And after I finish sanding, I'll give a good once over the whole thing. But overall, the seams came out pretty well. Pretty happy with them. I cut it down to kind of final size, and really, it's pretty good. There's like a slight bow, but it's not bad at all. And then if I take my level, which I've got over here, and place it down, there's really no gap. And honestly, I think the rock that I'm seeing when I do this comes because some of the panels are still a little misaligned, like a 16th of an inch above the others. So we're going to go ahead and sand it down, starting with 80 grit, 120, and 220 to finish it off and just knock this out. So I won't time lapse through the whole process of me sanding because this is going to take quite a while, but we'll at least get started.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna feel you.
All right, team. So I'm finished sanding the top and the sides. I still have the bottom to do, but an hour and a half later, it's pretty late, and I've still got work in the morning. So I'm going to call it a night there. But I wanted to get the top done so that we could see the progress we made. So this is the finished piece, the 2.0 version of the walnut dresser top. A lot of words to say, and it's late at night. But really, I'm super happy with how it came out. Could it be better? Definitely. Did I do make some amateur mistakes? Absolutely. Like I chose two boards with huge knots in them that both came out during the planer. So these are straight through holes right now. I may leave them. I may try to fill them in. Not sure yet. And then we have this one seam that you can definitely still see. But I mean, overall, I would say 80% of the board, if not 85%, is almost seamless. These flies are terrible, and it came out really nice. I love it. It looks really pretty. A really interesting note here that no one asked for, but I'm going to say anyways, is I grabbed from two different piles at the lumber yard. So these three boards came from the first pile, and that's why, I mean, they are identical in color, probably came from the same tree, right? And really look seamless. And then you've got this fourth board here, which came from the pile that I had grabbed all the other lumber for the dresser from, and it's a much darker walnut. So just interesting. I don't mind at all. I love that about wood. I love the varying hues and tones and all of that. So, but here is V1, right? Version 1. And I just want to show you guys the difference, right? So obviously this one, the seams aren't as tight, and it wasn't sanded down as nicely. And I don't think it's as square. But if we rock this one back and forth, there's really no play. There's a little bit, but I think it's because the work surface is actually uneven. and the bottom hasn't been sanded. But there's really hardly any at all. Versus if we come to this one, there's a lot more. And then if I hit this corner, there's a ton more. Whereas if I hit this corner, there's nothing. And if I hit this corner, there's nothing. There's a little tiny bit. And if I hit this corner, even though it's off the table, and if I hit this corner. So this one is largely much flatter than the other one. And I'm going to show you that right now. Okay, so this should be a really good vantage point for you guys, and I'll zoom in. But if I place the level, my straight edge, right across the center of the board, you can see there's this huge, like 1/8 inch gap right there. And just to show you really how big it is, I've got a little piece here that I can, slide all the way through. And if that one, wasn't enough, we can do this one here, and it'll come all the way through. So that's a pretty crazy gap. Definitely not supposed to be there. Versus we come to this one, and it's like flat. I mean, there's nothing. And I'll just, for the sake, I'm just pushing the level across. And it's like that all the way up. So really, sorry guys, really happy with how that came out. All right, and so that's it, guys. That's it for this video. I really appreciate all the support and all the views I've been getting recently. Again, slower schedule, but that's okay. We'll do what we can and try to get this cleaned up within the next month and finish this project. But if you're new here, as always, like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what you think. Give me some criticism, some advice, some feedback, whatever you can. I love it. Thanks for watching, you guys. This has been 5 o'clock Woodshop.